Welcome to the Handed Down Kitchen, where we bring antique recipes out of the past and back into the kitchen. A few videos back we showed you our Victorian cookbook, which we followed with 3 recipes from it for plum jam, jam roly-poly pudding and custard. Moving on 41 years from that cookbook, today we'll be showing you our Edwardian book. This is the 11th edition of High-Class Cookery Recipes, which was written by Edith Clarke, the principal of the National Training School for Cookery, for use by its students. First things first, let's begin with some background, and you'll have to brace yourself, you're in for a bit of a history lesson here. This book was published in the year 1909, which is slap bang in the middle of the Edwardian era, named after King Edward VII. King Edward, the eldest son of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, was known as the King of all people. Another thing the king was known for was his very large appetite and being quite overweight as a result of it, which, along with his habit of chain smoking and the stress of his position, found him in very poor health for most of his reign. Overeating was a common problem in Edwardian Britain. Dishes were becoming more and more complex, and the salaries of skilled chefs, cooks, and cookery teachers were increasing. And to be assured a good job in these lucrative lines of work, the best possible start you could have is evidence of training from the National Training School for Cookery. Going back to the time our book was published, the main focus of the school remained to teach future cookery teachers, but it wasn't long before it was realised they should open the doors to ladies who wished to train for other reasons. An article published in the Journal of the Society of Arts in 1877 stated that, while the original object of the school has been kept steadily in view, namely the training of teachers, it has of necessity deviated from this to raise the needful funds by teaching those who do not engage to become teachers, but rather wish to learn what good and economical cookery is for their own home use. But to train at the school was expensive. At the turn of the 20th century, 3 main cookery courses were available, the cheapest being scullery work and cleaning, which in today's money would cost £41. Then you had plain cookery courses. This course, including the price of the training book written by the school for it, would have cost £188 in today's money. Finally, you had high-class cookery courses, which were more complex and assumed the students already had a developed background in cooking. This is the course our cookbook was the training book for. The recipes in it were titled in French, and any lady that got a place on this course had high aspirations for her future employment. This course, including the price of the training book written by the school for it, would have cost £317 in today's money. But the real kicker was the training diploma. If you wanted to work as a teacher, you'd need one. In 1909, you could achieve a full cookery diploma from the National Training School for Cookery for £40, which in today's money is £3,127. By the Edwardian era, the National Training School for Cookery had an exceptionally diverse set of pupils from all walks of life, and it was quite ahead of its time. So this brings me on to what we know of the original owner of the book, Miss A. Watson, who inscribed the book in pencil up here. Throughout the book, she's made a few markings next to recipes she's tried. For example, she made this sauce here and wrote next to it mutton cutlets, which she must have made to go with it. She also made a note right at the back of the book to say that the index is completely wrong, which we can say is absolutely true. You can't find anything in it. So we know that Miss Watson attended the school's very expensive high-class cookery courses. But that's not all. She also left a few handwritten notes in the pages of the book, and from them we can get a better idea of her and what she did. So far we've made 2 of the recipes that she wrote down, one for Jenny Lind pudding and another for ginger biscuits, and they went so well we plan on filming these for one of our later videos. Now, coming back to our book, it was published more than 112 years ago as of the date of this video, and condition-wise there is some historic damage to it along the spine at the front, and we'll look into fixing that later on. But otherwise, it's in very good condition, and it must have been looked after very well. Like all class books produced by and for the school, it starts with a summary of rules and fees for it, under a list of names of key people, including the school's principal, Mrs. Edith Clarke, and the secretary, Miss Caddo, and its patron, His Majesty the King. This follows by a little introduction, starting with instructions for how to make stocks, and then definitions for terms used throughout the book, such as glaze, consomme, and descriptions of the 4 mother sauces. Before we get to the recipes, we have the author's preface written by Edith Clarke. It reads, "There are very many cookery books now in circulation, but I claim for mine that each recipe has been thoroughly tested by several of the staff teachers in these kitchens before accepted as correct. They are intended for the use of both ladies and cooks and are written as concisely as is compatible with the clear directions necessary to produce an easily followed recipe." Just next to this, there's also a little note in which Mrs. Clarke thanks the famous chef Charles Sen, from whom many of the recipes in this book came from. So once we get past this, we have the recipes, and almost all of them are titled in French. We begin with a chapter of soups, followed by dressed fish, then curries and Indian dishes, which are noted to be as taught by a native cook in the Colonial and Indian Exhibition of 1886. Remember, this book is more than 100 years old. Entrees, which is the biggest chapter, then sauces, various recipes, most of which of these are roasts, vegetables and salads, savouries, hot puddings, cold desserts, and fancy bread and cakes. And you can see how complex some of these recipes are. Look at the lengths of the ingredients lists. Almost every meat dish is to be accompanied by a freshly made sauce in another chapter. And don't forget that the wealthy Edwardians who would be eating them would sit down to an 8-course dinner if they're eating light. Recreating an authentic Edwardian meal from this book is hard work. Your eyes need to be on quite a few things at once. There are no real pictures in this book, but we do have a few adverts. Most of these are for cooking ingredients. At the front we've got one for Lemco, which was a beef extract that's no longer made. At the back we have adverts for beef suet Baiatora, which is still around today. We used it for our Victorian jam roly-poly pudding. And Brown & Colson's corn flour, and again that's still around today. We also have this advert for Adam & Sons Ironmongers, who sold kitchen pots and pans, moulds and other kitchen equipment from their shop in Berry Street, which is close to where the location of the school used to be. And this really attractive advert for the new Metropolitan cooker by the Davis Gas Stove Company, which you could either buy or hire from 200 Camberwell New Road in southeast London. And that is about everything we know about this cookbook. In our next 3 videos, we'll be showing you how we brought 3 recipes from this book back into the kitchen, starting with fillets de boeuf à la Béarnaise, and then a very thick Espagnole sauce and the Béarnaise sauce that both go with this dish. In the meantime, you can check out the recipes we've already tried from this cookbook that were taught at the National Training School for Cookery in 1909 on our channel. We hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please leave us a like, and if you'd like to see more about our collection of antique cookbooks and watch us recreate the recipes from them, be sure to subscribe to our channel.